to another episode of Leads to Deals.
Hey guys, Scott Morse here with the Leads to Deal podcast. I am super excited about today's guest. We have two of the most talented industry disrupting wholesalers and real estate investors, both in single family and commercial real estate here in our office in Colombia, South America. I want to give a huge, big, warm welcome to two guys I now consider dear friends, Alex and Anthony Quezada. Welcome to the Leads to Deal podcast, fellas.
What's up, Scott?
Awesome. So guys, one of the things I thought about when I wanted to bring in my initial guest is who can provide the most value. I think a lot of times providing value is letting people understand not only where you're at today, which we're going to get to, but really how it started, right? And it's not just how it started in the real estate world, but Leads to Deals podcast, we're focused on everybody in sales.
Leads to Deals.
So I want to hear a little bit about your sales journey, some of the mentors you've had, where it started at, how it all went. So for you, Alex, I know you're the older brother. These guys are brothers. But since you're the older brother, what was your initial foray, step into the sales world and how you've kind of paced throughout?
Well, since I was little, I sold candy and sold Playboys to other kids. Had some experience in sales my whole life. I was was a hustler kind of guy. So I really went from obviously that. I did a little bit of telephone sales, getting surveys done for fire department stuff. That was my first job. Then I did fine dining, and then I worked under you, my good man. You teaching me the sales skills at our travel club, and that was really where I actually learned sales, read sales books that you provided to me, and really fine-tune my education on the sales industry and really learning how to sell.
Out of curiosity, before that time that you had started the travel club with me, and so I've known Alex for probably
10 plus years.
Yeah, over a decade now, and it wasn't this type of relationship. I had a travel club sales floor, and I was looking for super talented guys. His name came across from a mutual friend, and ultimately he came in, and you did an amazing job as a closer as well too. But what was your thoughts on the sales profession? Before you ever got into sales, what were you thinking if somebody said oh, I'm a car salesman or I sell real estate? What did you think of sales in general?
I don't know if I had any kind of connotation towards it at all. I felt like maybe that was perception-wise that they make a lot of money.
Yes. Okay, cool. And then so I know that's kind of led to where you're ultimately going to your real estate journey, but for yourself, Anthony, what was your first exposure to sales?
Definitely everything was mostly through experience. So with Alex, we worked with another individual who did wholesaling, and I did all the back end stuff. So it was TC, admin, selling out contracts, a lot of grunt work. It wasn't until me and Alex decided to make our own thing that it was mainly following him to appointments. So I would negotiate a price with the seller. Alex would actually go visit the house himself, and I would tag along. So I had never really had, I didn't read the books. I was lazy on reading books. I didn't listen to podcasts. It was literally just watching Alex pitch in front of people live, going through the house, taking pictures. So everything I was taught was by experience.
So that's great. So your first real sales experience was the real estate wholesaling industry.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've obviously had that at least focus and growth. One of the things I think, and I'm a little bit older than both of you guys, and I'm curious your feeling on this, but as a kid when I was growing up, it's people who didn't get a college degree, you were either going to use your hands or you had to use your mouth. And I had done roofing for a number of months with my dad. He owned a roofing company, and there was just multiple times where he would take me out to the job site and you had to have this really big magnet. And you would have to walk through the grass, and you'd have to walk upstairs, and you'd have to go pick up all the different nails that are around and all this manual labor. And I just knew that, hey, listen, if for whatever reason college, this is as a kid, for whatever reason college doesn't work out or I can't find an exact profession, it's gonna have to be some way of using my words as a weapon, because I don't want to use my hands. I don't want to be out here on hot roofs every single day for the rest of my life. And so I see that, I meet guys like you have what I consider to be a natural, innate ability to sell. Same thing with you. As soon as I met you, boom, natural, innate ability to sell. Would you think that after all these years, you could take what you've learned now and maybe even teach that to somebody who may not have it? Or do you think somebody, if you're gonna come in, they already have to have that kind of natural innate sales, or is it something that's teachable?
I think you 100% teach it. You just have to have the hunger and the want of doing it, and obviously some common sense. For me, I feel like a lot of it is like have problem-solving skills. If you can have problem-solving skills, then you can be taught.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in that. Like I've hired and fired a lot of people in our office, and usually I'll look at Alex and I'll be like, they don't have it. Like it's an it factor. You know, I think you can teach it. I think people who are in timeshare, car sales, some of them don't even have the it factor. Like they're just not good salesmen. Like they don't have the drive. I think some of the people that we've trained 18-year-olds who are crushing deals, but they have the want. They have the need. They want to learn. They're absorbing. Like the drive.
What you just said about the ed factor to me means a lot too. There's a book behind me, it's Zig Ziglar. He's one of my favorite authors. And so I used to have a phrase that always stuck in my head is you are the equivalent of your 5 closest associates. And as in high school and in my early college type years, I just realized the 5 people that I was around weren't the 5 people I wanted to be associated with. But what do you do when you live in the hood or you live in the middle of nowhere and you don't have 5 people? I found those people in books. And so I made sure my mentors were those guys in books. And then one of the things Zig Ziglar said, he said, there's never been a master salesman who was born. On the day that he was born, the baby slapped him, the doctor slapped the baby on the butt and said, you're gonna be an elite salesman. It is something that's taught. But I think that it factor isn't your natural ability for sales. I think your it factor is your desire, your determination, your hustle. Because you give us, we have now co-shared teams, but you give us somebody who's got a hunger and a passion, then you add the skills on top of it, and that's a rock star agent. So I think you're right, that is the it factor.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep. So where we're at today with these two guys, I mean, let's just talk about it for a second. We're in Colombia, South America, here in our podcast studio. Collectively in this office here, we have close to 200 persons right now at this time. You guys in your Orlando, the elite sales office there. In your Orlando office, how many bodies are there right now supporting your major infrastructure?
Including me and Alex, there's probably 15, 16 of us.
16 with us.
Yeah.
Wow. So how has it been? What year did you start initially?
I started, December will be 11 years.
11 years, wow. And so when you started out, it was just you or you were working for somebody else? What's kind of your initiation
Just
story?
me initially, bought a bunch of seminars, learning how to do real estate, buying houses with no money down. Did a couple deals on my own, felt like I was missing something, and then worked for somebody else and learned exactly what I needed, which is estimating repairs correctly within a couple weeks. But stuck with him because I'm very loyal, and stuck with him for 3 years. Brought my brother in like the last year as the admin guy, and then after that, we were like, let's do our own thing.
When did he first mention wholesaling or real estate investing to you?
Probably when I was 18, 19 years old.
Okay, and how old are you now?
28.
Okay, cool. So a decade ago, he brings it to you. What was your initial thoughts on this industry?
I think most people, it's like a scam. Like, I don't understand how you make the money. Like, the biggest hurdle was like everything's traditional real estate. Like, where's the agent involved? Like, what do you mean you're selling it to a buyer? Like, I didn't understand it. Like, it just felt like a fugazi.
How long did it take for your parents to be like, oh, I get what, or do they still not wrap their head around it?
They get it now.
They get it now. It took them a while to realize the money we were making and like where we're at now. When I showed them finally like a net worth principal, balance sheet.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, and so you went to college?
Yes, finance degree.
Finance degree, and yourself went to college?
2 years and jump with this guy.
I told him, stop
going into debt, come over here and create some assets and generational wealth. I love it. All right, cool. So you graduated with a finance degree. Do you feel like you use that in today's business structure you have?
Yeah, I think the finance degree definitely helped me have a business sense. And so it definitely helped 100%. But I feel like for this business, obviously you don't need a college degree.
Yeah, I agree. You don't need a college degree. I think it's beautiful when you can have people working for you that have monster college degrees though. And so some people, it takes an entrepreneurial spirit to be able to go through the ups and downs of this industry for sure. And I see a lot of people in my perspective working with so many affiliates nationwide that there's a difference between a hobbyist and an entrepreneur. And so I want to focus on that here in a second. And so for me, the hobbyists that I see, they are in it to pay some bills, but they're not in it for a long-term reciprocal foundation that they're building that's going to pay them. So for you guys, when you see these hobbyists in this industry, do you think hobbyists ultimately turn to entrepreneurs, or do you think they're just stuck in this kind of lower wavelength of staying hobbyists? Like, what are your opinion on the hobbyists versus entrepreneurs?
So I think it could be you're just not surrounded with the right people, like the 5 people you're surrounded with. In getting into those other rooms, because for me and him, when we first started, I took him away, we were doing 3 to 5 deals a month, and he was much younger, but I was young relatively.
Yep.
And we were making money, 30, 50 grand a month, going, hanging out, partying, going to raves, festivals, this thing, traveling a lot. And then, we did that for like 3 years. And I'm like, and the people around me in Orlando, the other wholesalers were like, oh, there's no deals, it's so hard to find deals, so competitive. And that was like implanted in my brain because these people have been doing it longer than I have. Yeah. I knew the market, knew that things. But then when I went to like other events, scale events, and people were doing 20, 30 deals a month, younger than me, in more tougher markets in Miami, I was like, what are you doing?
21-year-old kids driving Lamborghinis. I was like, how do I get that?
Yeah, and then they were like, hey, how, what are you doing for marketing? Like, what are you spending? I'm like, I'm spending like 3 to 5 grand. They're like, try spending 30. I'm like, all right, that's easy. Boom. He was good at with business credit. We got a business credit card, Amex, Platinum Amex, put 30K on it. Next month, next 45 days, we made 111 grand, and then just kept rolling from there.
I love it. That's one of the stories that I hear from the top elite guys. They almost had like a mind shift. They went to a consultation, they went to a seminar, which I know you're big at now participating in, but also going to all these different seminars. And sometimes it's just that one nugget you walk away with. It's that one extra thing. You invited me to one by a gentleman named Kent Clothier. And there's been many impactful sentences that I've heard in my career, but I don't think there's been any of them that I've ever gotten from an outside person, like I met face to face, except when he said, price is only an issue in the absence of value. And for a sales guy, what that does is that takes away every excuse you could ever have about why that customer said no to my offer. It's because I haven't created value enough to equate the price that I need. And so that's one of the big things. I know you guys have it on your wall. We use that as a mantra here, but price is only an issue in the absence of value. So I love that you invested in yourself. You said something a second ago, you said he was good with business credit. Do you mean he just had the credit to be able to get the business credit, or he knew how to get it?
He learned.
Yeah, I actually learned. I got interested by this kid who needs credit on Instagram, and I bought his course and everything. Because for me, like, we were spending money, but I was like, how do I travel for free? How do I do this for free? How do I get into the hotels? And it was just one of those things that caught my attention, learned it, and I was like, if you're going to be spending this money, let's do it directly.
Great. So where you guys are at today, let's kind of fast forward a little bit. Where you guys are at today, which is one of the largest that I'm aware of, wholesaling operations and investment operations in the United States, for sure. And knowing myself, how many affiliates we have through the Lamasu model, there's only a couple of major players that are out there. And I'd say that you guys are one of the only major players who are still in touch with their business. And so when I talk to some of these CEOs, it's always like, ask this guy, ask this guy, ask this guy, which I get. There's great to have a foundation underneath of you, but I know that there's a disconnect in their KPIs. And it's like, you're the breadwinner. You're the guy who built this. You want to still be dialed in. So for you guys, with where you're at today, what are you seeing as maybe some of those disconnects are you having? Are you still that tight-knit of a group? Or do you feel more disconnected because now you're managing 17 people and now you're looking at commercial properties? How are you handling still being the tip of the spear, knowing your company's as wide as it is?
I think we definitely have a strong grip on things. I think one of our biggest struggles is letting things go. So whenever we try to adapt, we're always making sure we put the right pieces in place. I still like to be very involved in the wholesale business, but also keeping in mind that, we're trying to buy commercial properties as well. So then it's things where we'll look for a team lead, like who's the best acquisition agent to move into commercial aspects and roles. So for me, I still like to be very hands-on, no matter what department it is. But as we grow, we're going to come across obstacles on a daily basis. But for us, you got to adapt and find the right people.
Yeah.
So he runs pretty much the whole wholesale operation. Heads, the TCs report to him, dispo, and acquisition. So he pretty much runs everything. So he's definitely hands-on on that a lot. I think I stay connected because I maybe working on self-storage, but I work on the floor with everybody else. So I hear what they're saying. I know what they're doing. I see the issues, and I'll tell him, like, although I may want to be in the middle of something, I may want to say something to this acquisition, I just tell him, like, yo, like, she needs to clean this up, or she needs to say this better, and whatnot, so he can take care of that. So I think that's how I can stay connected. And then obviously, you know, we're all trying to grow together, so we're bringing some guys, for the, like he said, from the acquisitions to do self-storage stuff, and obviously trying to get him involved as well on that aspect as well.
And not only that, like, we're all in office. So like a lot of people that we meet, it's like VAs or virtual teams. Like I got a guy in Cali in North Carolina and all this markets, but I know where all my employees at are 100% of the time.
Yeah, so me and you, or us three, we all agree on this, that quality of deliverables is where it's at. And so, not saying that there's not a guy who's ever done it, but the reason why I have 200 and some, or roughly 200 agents here under one roof is because I need that consistency in deliverables. I need to be able to having managers walk around and hear what people are saying. I need them to be in the mix. I need them standing behind the computers. Nobody's playing on Instagram, doing these types of things. And that's what strikes me a lot about you guys, is because I find people who want to shortcut the shortcut. Wholesaling is the shortcut. You're already shortcutting the real estate investment space, and now you want to shortcut the shortcut? You're like, oh, I'll just outsource this, and I'll just outsource this, and I'll virtual bookkeep this, and I'll do this. And it's like, but I just can't figure out where we're struggling at 2 to 3 deals a month. You're struggling because you don't have, people don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect. And so when I was at their office, I guess last month, you guys were nice enough to invite me in there. I'm walking through your office, and I was very surprised. There was a big office in the corner. It was completely decked out. I was like, whose office is this? And you said, it's mine. And he was like, I never sit in it. And literally the entire time I was there, if you were there, you were on the floor in one of the cubicles. And then you guys were showing me your KPI reports. So it's like, you guys are also in tune because of the culture that you've built, but also the technology that you leverage. Your CRM is sending you morning reports. Your call platform you guys use is sending you daily reports. And so you have all this information at your fingertips that a lot of people don't even know can exist, I think, a lot of other wholesalers, and gives you a strategic advantage over them. So like, do you see that too when you're mentoring some of these younger kids? They just don't have their KPIs, or what do you see that they miss a lot?
Some of it's training. A lot of the VAs, like sometimes the person who owns the company can't close a deal. So they're trying to outsource, whether it's like, hey, read the script, but they can't even teach you on the script. Some of it's just management issues, like people just don't know how to control the team. Some people just have lack of responsibility. They can't keep people accountable.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's sales and marketing. So yeah. Sales, they don't know how the sales skills themselves to run a team, to train. And then they definitely don't know their numbers.
Yeah.
Like I have some one-on-one clients and stuff like that. Most of the time I ask them their numbers, their KPIs, and they don't have it. And even us, we didn't really have it until we got into rooms and masterminds when they're like, this is what you need to track. This is how you know how to grow. And you just need someone to teach you that stuff. And even like the finance, degree I had didn't really teach you KPIs.
Right.
So most people don't know their KPIs. They don't know the numbers are working. They say, hey, my bank account is getting bigger and it's growing, and they think everything's good. So
one of the things that I know that you guys have leveraged extensively and built on, but is that Synergy CRM. And so when I talk to other people who aren't on Synergy CRM, particularly like Podio users. So Podio is a type of CRM a lot of wholesalers use in this industry, but I can't tell you how many people that we provide leads to who are literally at the end of the month, they'll be like, so could you send us a report of how many leads you sent us for the month? I'm like, wait a minute. So you don't know that we sent you 48 leads? Because if you don't know I sent you 48 leads, you don't know how many you got on the phone. And if you don't know how many you got on the phone, you don't know how many you got in a consultation and sent out a contract to, and you don't know this and you don't know that. So I was looking at your guys' report earlier, and I'm not gonna say the number because it's so monstrous that YouTube might ban you guys, but there were 78 deals, including your JVs, so far this month that were in your CRM, and you could see how many conversations Terry had. Like, we joined this other guy's program before for his Podio, because before our first year after we went to that event, we started doing like big numbers. Me and him did 88 deals in a year, and it was pretty much from May to the end of the year. We had like 7-10 deals before that. So that was all pen and paper. Wow. Then when we went to that other event, he had like a big CRM, like mapped out Podio, and I was like, we literally bought the mentorship coaching thing they had for that Podio. And then it was like, this is just so complicated. We started like going backwards, getting less deals per month. I'm like, this is fucking nightmare. And then we got, the Synergy CRM,
and game changer, So like, it's just so easy, and it makes it, it does everything for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's user friendly. So I think one of the biggest advantages is that it's dummied down enough to like, the sales guys need to focus on sales. So the last thing I want to do is make sure like they have to go through this bucket to open up another bucket to find their task. And I almost feel like they just don't even want to work at that point. They're like, I don't even know where the hell this file went. Like the Synergy CRM is just, it's a one click and you're done.
While everybody says the market's crashing, the hedge funds are going away, oh no, we can't get self-storage, we can't. So you guys are at the tip of the spear, right? But from you as a leadership, what does your day-to-day look like? You're the director of sales. Somebody on watching this wants to have a guy just like you. What happens when you walk in, and how's your day looking?
Yeah, so we make sure we have a strong culture in our office. So we go in, everyone gets in, starts to work at 9 a.m. So the first thing we do every single day, no matter what happens, we do a morning meeting. So whether it's going over KPI reports, maybe it's some motivation, given, just the second quarter just ended, whether it's something we can use to build urgency in the pitch, like it's constant training, because training is the most important part. We have a saying, people would say ABC, always be closing. In our office, it's ABL, always be learning. Because there's always something new you can learn. There's always a technique. When you go to a boardroom, you hear, price is only an issue in the absence of value. That's something you want to bring to the closers. Like, they're not hearing that, let's bring it. So you even have opportunities where we have like our employees go out and read a book, and then you have to present in the office.
Nice.
So we try to make sure we adapt. But yeah, morning meetings are at 9 a.m. After that, we start the day banging on the phones, and then we go from there. And it's a constant, walking the floor, TOing deals, making sure Dispo's doing their jobs, how many people they're sending to properties, and trying to keep everybody accountable.
That's a lot. And it's actually more than a director of sales. What you're saying is that, hey, listen, I'm the guy who's launching the office in the morning. I'm the guy who's monitoring the sales. And then I'm also have my hands in TC and Dispos. Do you think that that's a necessary thing to do? Like, hey, a DOS has to be this plugged in? Or do you think that's still like a growth potential for you guys where TCs and Dispos are kind of completely handed out? And then if that is the case, would that allow you to grow sales more?
That is a tricky question. I think the hardest part about Dispo is a lot of people feel like, they use certain platforms, they can just send a text or send an email and a deal sell. I posted a video not too long ago about the Dispo, like it's still a sales game. Like you still have to create urgency with your buyers. You still got to make sure the EMDs are on time. Like you still got to pitch them, even if it's your only buyer, that you have 10 other people. TCs is definitely one of those tracks that I can lead them through their own vices, and they come to me when there's like problem clients, and maybe they need a stronger voice to be on the phone to appeal to their clients, whether they're trying to back out of contracts or some other company gave them higher money, or there's maybe lean issues that they just need help figuring out. But Dispo, I think it does go hand in hand with acquisitions because they're doing incoming producing activities, and then it's a sales game still.
Yeah, since I've been in your office, I can say firsthand, one of the things that I like the most about what you're doing is, I don't even think you have a chair at your desk. You obviously have a stand-up desk, but it's constant movement on the floor. Constant wireless headset chiming in, trying to take over calls, coaching people on their calls. Being that type of energy, people feed off of it, right? And so I know you mentioned a little while ago, your transaction coordinator sent you a message and she said what because you weren't there?
That the mood in the office has went down.
Right, so he's a coach, he's a mentor. He's the guy that has to keep everybody up and lifted. And so while he's here, obviously planting seeds to water for continued growth, even though you guys got how many deals yesterday?
5 deals yesterday.
5 deals yesterday, even when he wasn't there. Even after 5 deals, the room can feel his absence. And so to me, like, that's the most beautiful thing. You got a guy who's not actually closing the deals, but you're causing the deals to be closed. You're constantly observing, you're walking around, they're feeding off of your energy. And I think that's why you guys are disrupting this vertical. Did you ever set a ceiling to your number? Like when you hear that, because I think sometimes you guys, because I know you're in a bucket, even though you guys are out there playing with other players, but I think sometimes you guys don't maybe even appreciate how much of a wave you're having, how few influencers and coaches that are out there are actually doing anywhere close to these numbers. But when you hear 78 deals so far this month, how's that number sound to you when you hear that, like, my team created 78 deals?
It sounds like we could do more. Like, it's just bodies. Like, the more bodies we have, we just hire a couple more people and they're getting deals. But like, the more bodies we have, we can do more. Like, so it's just like.
Did you ever think you'd be doing 78? If I had this podcast with you in 2014, and I was like, hey man, I got this secret path you can follow. 78 deals.
I think it was possible. We never put like ceilings or limitations on like what was possible because seeing these other people, and to be quite honest, like I saw those other people on stage. I'm like, I'm fucking smarter than that guy. Like I can do this.
Yep.
I just didn't know it was possible. And then I went in that room, saw it was possible, and I'm like, oh, we can do this. And then continue like working with you and Lamasu and other things. Like we know like what the ceiling is, and obviously the team you built here. So like coming here and seeing how it's changed from like a year ago or whatnot, and like there's always growth potential. So like it's surrounding yourself around the right people, like being surrounded with you, seeing what you have grown shows us like we can continue to grow ourselves, and kind of like having him like you say like being the the head person for each thing. Like I see how you're structured with like team leads in each department and stuff like that. So like I could see that being the growth and where we go to, but we would just need more bodies. Like we don't have 2 TCs, we only have like 2 dispo guys. So it's not needed right now, and that's why he can handle everything. But I think there's unlimited growth potential. Now, do we want to grow it to 1,000 deals a month or something crazy like that? Remains to be seen. But like I think if we get 100 deals a month, keep going like that, and then scale these other verticals like self-storage and buying commercial properties, that's I think where really wealth is created, and that's the direction I want to kind of go towards more.
And he had a quote in our office last week where it was talking about being average, and every day is your new average. So getting 78 deals, that's the new average. So that's a new expectation. Like 78 is possible, 79 is easy. So it's always continue to grow as we keep breaking records, and I even know your office breaks records as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I remember, and I've literally said this probably since the very first day I walked in your first office. And so full disclosure, I haven't been in the real estate space for about 2.5 years, and Alex is the one who gave me the idea, and he was like, hey man, listen, if you'll just take this product, which he'd been kind of mentioning to me over the years, because we still had our friendship from when we had worked together in the previous industry, he's like, you'll just take this product and insert it into your call center infrastructure, dude. Like we'll murder everybody who is affiliated with you will do great. And I just remember after I saw this campaign, I said, this is a 10 deal a day track. And so the time where I will never take my foot off the gas pedal, but I'm going to reflect and be very, very pleased is when you guys collectively, right, we're at 10 deals a day, because that is highly achievable in this. There's 22 work days, that's 220 deals a month. That's making a lot of impact. And it's not only and this is what I try to share with my kids, it's not only you're making money. You're talking about probably 35 closers that are making good money. Then you're talking about all the people who are contractors for you guys, who are feeding their kids, the roofer, the lawn care guy, the siding guy, the flooring guy, your leads provider, us. So as you scale, that means you need more leads, which means I can offer more jobs. And now I'm offering more jobs, and these kids are making a bigger impact. So it really is this crazy butterfly effect from 12 deals to 78 deals. Because think about it, you said in your first 7 months or so, you did 88 deals that year. You're about to do that in a month. Guarantee you'll be well in excess of that before the end of this year, particularly with your current scale trajectory. So I just love that about you guys. And one last thing that I want to piggyback off of is you said, hey, it's just adding bodies. So he's right, but it's adding bodies when there's a solid foundation. You can't scale inconsistent results. And more importantly, you can't scale inconsistent marketing, because you ain't gonna hire a bunch of closers unless you got a bunch of leads. And you can't keep closers unless you have a consistent lead flow. And so when I see these people who are like, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, it's like, hey, do you have a foundation built first? Do you have an onboarding process? Do you have the ability to listen to your closers' calls, for God's sakes? How many of you don't even listen to your closers' calls? Or you have the ability and you don't even do it? And so that's why I'm proud of you guys, and I believe in your infinite scalability, because you have a foundation that you can build a mansion on. So I applaud you for that. Alex, a couple little things about what you're doing in the commercial space. Give everybody a kind of a heads up as to what you're doing in the commercial space and kind of how long you've been in it.
So since like 2017, been starting like to start acquiring properties ourselves, like buy and hold properties, mostly residential in the beginning. And so, but now we are working together with a caller that we trained up on your team to cold call leads for us. And we got some traction there, got some leads today. So just building that pipeline, and hopefully, our goal was to get 10 this year. We're a lot slow on that right now, but with these two going and the trajectory of like the calls, the leads coming in, hopefully we get to that number or close to it. As long as we get to at least 5 and match what we did last year, we'll be good.
Yeah, I was pulling the numbers. So we just started. I'd do anything for these guys. They're one of my high valued affiliates, and there's a I just say you guys are eagles amongst eagles, right? Like I have nothing but eagles in my network that we dial for, but you guys are always thinking and doing the next. But I know we generated 46 self-storage leads last month. I know that you're working on a couple of underwriting deals for those, so I'm excited about that. It just shows that it works. Like cold calling isn't dead. We're doing 2 million outbound dials a week right now. And so it just shows that it just takes the momentum, the action to get out there and do it. But you mentioned seller financing a lot. So briefly, it's a two-part question. Can you explain, just for anybody who's not 100% sure, what seller financing is? And then second, are you leveraging seller financing when you're doing these self-storage deals because you need to offer a better price, or are you doing it because of capital constraints? So what is it and why?
So first, seller financing is essentially like the owner will take back a portion of their equity in payments. So like the first one we bought was $850. We gave them, I think it was a little like $100,000 down. They seller financed $750 at 2% interest only for 5 years, which is super cheap money.
Great.
So when we're borrowing money, we're typically paying 6 to 8% to an investor, and they're getting equity in the self-storage deal. So that's a higher interest payment. So it's all about really, to make these deals work, your capital stack. Capital stack being, am I using commercial bank and then like private money or my own money, and the cost of the funds, and you kind of like, the average of the money is 6%. Typically you need a deal that's gonna generate more than 6%. So if you can make 8% and you capital stack when you debt service is 6%, then you're making 2% essentially for yourself.
Gotcha.
Or the equity owners. And so when we're making offers on these self-storage deals, if they're wanting a 5 or 6 cap rate, which is the money, the interest it produces on the cash on cash return essentially, if you bought it all cash. So what we're trying to do is lower the capital stack by having the seller, typically if they're gonna lend us some money on seller financing, it's literally gonna be like 0% interest, 2%, 3%, something very low to lower our overall capital stack. And so we offer it pretty much on every deal if there's a possibility. Even getting 10, 20% down, 20% seller financing changes the deal completely, where it makes it possible.
Yes.
So a lot of times it is wanting a little bit higher number. They want a higher number, so we're able to pay a higher number when they do seller financing. So for instance, that first deal where they financed so much, it was essentially a 5 cap. Where in that market at that time 2 years ago, probably would have been like a 8 cap deal. And so we bought that property at a 5 cap, but there was so much added value in that property. In 6 months, it was a 12 cap.
Wow.
So we were able to, if we brought that to a bank, it might not have got funded, and it might not have been able to cover the debt service and get the funding needed. So by doing structuring the seller financing deal, which we gave them multiple options, then you never know why a seller will do something. So you always want to make that offer. You always want to, you can't assume what they will do. So they actually, to my eyes, picked the best deal that was best deal for us. But for some reason, it's the best deal for them. Like you never know what happens. So always make the offer, always put it out there, and then see what works, and just try to create win-win situations.
So what's so exciting about this is I love when I'm like best friends, good friends with people, business relationships with people who just know more than I know. Like I hear he's like 6 cap and your stack rate, and I'm like, oh God, but I know dialer platforms and I know lead generation. And so like here out of us 3, I think what's so synergistic about our relationship with you and some of my other affiliates, it's like I have my lane and I execute flawlessly. You have your lane and you execute. You have your lane and you execute. But when you all have a common bond, which is work ethic, you put those 3 lanes, now it's a super highway. It's not just 3 independent channels, but now we can do more volume than you ever could do independently. And so I love it. And that's why I tell people, being out there and joining these mentoring groups, the ones that, certain coaching classes, et cetera, but you get to meet like-minded individuals. And some of those like-minded individuals could take you on a trajectory into a different stratosphere. I don't know if you started out thinking you would do commercial, but obviously that's where you're heading, is more and more commercial.
I always knew I was going to go to commercial. That's what I wanted to do. I know, so one of the things you say is like partnerships equal rocket ships.
Yes.
I never used to feel that way at all. Like I used to be like partnerships, like if I have a partner, then I have to like make 3 times as much money to split it up. But like it is finding the people who are synergistic and have like their own lane. Like that's why we're strategically partnered on different things, because we have different valuable contributions that we can give. And it's like finding the right partnerships. I see other people in partnerships and they're like, they either do the same thing or like they're good at the same thing, and it's like that doesn't work. Like you got to find somebody who makes you better, who makes you grow, and then so like that's a crucial thing to grow in business. So the other business I do have, like Airbnbs and mobile home parks, like I have strategic partners with those guys who like that's their main focus, and they help us grow the mobile home park business or apartments or whatever it may be.
Leads to deals.
So one of the things with the Leads to Deals podcast, and this is what we always say, we talk about everything from leads to deals, and everything we talk about leads to deals. But it's a sales side podcast. This is what it is. No matter what industry, we talk about sales. And so we love the real estate industry as well, and we've talked about kind of the outcomes. Well, let's talk some sales for a little bit, like real strategies, real stuff that has made an impact in your life on the floor. So I know I have one that I was going to share here in a second, but what about you guys? Like, what's the most like crazy conversion story that you've gotten, a sale that you've gotten so far in this industry where you're like, bro, I can't believe we were able to get this for this or this. How did it work out? So any particular deals that stick out to you, make you say like, damn, I'm a closer?
Yeah, man. I mean, we have a big thing about everything is Hollywood. Like, we watch all the movies, Boiler Room, Wolf of Wall Street. That's a big part of it, because everything's over the phone, so we're not going knocking on doors like we used to. So I think you do have to present yourself in certain ways. Crazy story, man. There's a lot. There was one deal we had in Atlanta, and it wasn't even like a first close. We already had it under contract, and we thought we acquisitioned it too high. And so I think we had it for like around 150, and we thought we could sell it for like 200,000. So we marketed, couldn't get it. My dispo guy's like, I'm not getting any traction on this property. We had to get it reduced. I was like, I think I have a buyer at what we're in at. So I had to call the seller, and I had an agent tell me like, good luck. Like, you're not gonna get it. And I gave him the opportunity. He's like, that man told me he's never gonna sell, or never get a reduction, And he's like, you're not gonna get it. He's like, don't waste your time. I was like, well, I'm gonna shoot the shot. So I remember giving this gentleman a call, and obviously I portrayed myself as like, I'm the director of sales. So I get on the call, and I believe his name is Anthony Sammons. And he's like, I go, hey, Anthony, this is Anthony. I'm one of the directors of Quick Cash Offer. And I go, at this stage in my career, I typically don't make phone calls like this. But I wanted to be the one to tell you kind of what's going on in your situation. And I kind of explained some benefits of, hey, some repair costs came higher. And a lot of it was just Hollywood. Like I used what the buyers told me, like, hey, this is the messed up, the foundation's jacked up. But I wanted to present myself as like, listen, I'm trying to get a deal done today. But at the end of this phone call, we'll just rip this up as friends. Yeah. So I go in for the pitch. I tell the guy, he goes, well, Anthony, it sounds like you're going to hit me with a number. I go, well, you're not going to like it. But the good news is we'll still close in 10 days. I hit the man with a 70K drop. Wow. He took it. No questions asked.
Did you feel like you should have gone for 80?
That's what I was going to say. The worst part about it was should have gone lower.
Yeah.
But the beautiful part about that deal is as soon as we got that addendum signed, a buyer called us that same day for a full price at $200,000.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Cool, man. And like you said, there's thousands of these. We do it daily. We do it hourly. I just saw you TO in a table for a young man in my office a minute ago. What about you, Alex?
I think any stories that I like is like assuming you don't never assume what they're going to say or what they're going to take. So I know one deal that comes to mind is Miss Terry Walker got it. It was a deal in Kentucky, middle of nowhere, Kentucky. And we offered this guy, I even was like, just trying to do a subject too. Like we have to be at 70, he owes 100. And I was like, just fucking try to do a subject too. They offered the 70, he took it, and he paid $30K at closing to get out of his mortgage.
So let's just recap that again. So the customer, your offer was 70. He needed 100 total just to be able to walk free and clear, roughly.
Well, his balance was 100.
Oh, his balance was 100. Gotcha.
Balance was 100.
So you were offering 70 of the 100, and he needed to move out of this house. It wasn't worth what he wanted. So he needed to come up with $30,000 and bring it to the closing table for you guys to be able to buy their house.
Yes. He paid to get out of his mortgage. $30K.
Wrote the title company a $30,000 check.
Awesome.
We put $15K into it, sold it for like $165 or something. We made like $70K on it.
Great.
$180.
Wow. That's huge. But you know how many people in this industry would have prejudged that lead or never called them and just never even picked up the phone and took that steps? But you got to shoot all your shots. This is sales. It's a contact sport. Mine is actually pre-real estate, but so I used to sell timeshare that was my very first sales job. 20 years old, boom, selling timeshare for X amount of years. I remember a guy came in, this was Williamsburg, Virginia, and there on the sales floor, you got to see the couples as they came in. And so like the older sales guys, like it would be almost like a line and be like, you're next, boom, you're next, boom. So he saw what the couple looked like and he jumped out of line. So that way I had to take his next one. And everyone was like, hey, that's not fair. And then the director, Billy Franklin, came up to me. He was like, hey, listen, it is what it is. I need you to take it. I have confidence that you will rock this deal, blah, blah. He hyped me up and he expected nothing, I assumed, but I bought into it because that's my leader. The reason why no one wanted to take him is it was a guy wearing coveralls, jean coveralls with no undershirt, not even a wife beater, just legit guy from the country, coveralls, jeans, work boots, and his wife. And so back then, I think the baby package was $16,900 for timeshare sales. And Billy had never talked to me before. So when the president or director of sales comes to talk to you, it's like, okay, take this seriously. I pitched my face off. And then at the end, when it came down to it, this man said yes. They're like, so how would you like to pay? Would you sign up for financing? He lifts the front billfold of his coveralls and pulls out like $5,000 in cash for the down payment right then and there. And that moment, I said, I will never prejudge a lead again. Because the guy who turned up that lead was better than me, he had more money than me, he was smarter than me in sales, he had all these things. But that taught me to like never prejudge a lead. And those are some of the things that I think that we have to embed and teach the industry as well too. It's like, the thing that bothers me the most about closers is they don't pay for the marketing. And so, you spend, let's say you have a $80 CPL or cost per lead, or you're getting PPC and you're $150. It's free to your closer. It's tens of thousands of dollars a month for you guys. And so if they spent that amount of money, they would never prejudge the lead. They would treat all of them the same. They would go through the same cycle. So it's just a matter of trying to get that in their heads. Like you have to love the lead as much as I love it, or you'll be a worker bee for the rest of your life.
Leads to deals.
All right, cool. Let's talk about some sales tips, guys. What are some sales tips that you would give? Doesn't have to be industry specific, but at some point, it's gonna be some 19-year-old kid who hates college. It's like, this is terrible. I'm going in debt. I know I'm not gonna get anything for it. And he heard about this cool sales job. His buddy's got something he's reading. Like, what are some like basic 101 for you guys, like fundamental sales tips that you would share with somebody new starting out?
Sales tips, I mean, you got to know your pitch inside and out. For me, like, especially when we have a new class, like when we hire people, I like to hire people as a group because I want to do training at the same time, have everybody at the same pace instead of jumping all over the place. But I see a lot of people who feel like they're killers and they'll take the script, they'll glance at it, and then they're immediately trying to make it their own. So for me, it's like, if you're going to adapt to something, you need to know that backwards and forwards before you even make it your own.
So I'm gonna get a couple of these tips from you, but I wanna focus on that. So I've seen great debate in your real estate industry, your guys' industry, about is a script necessary? And it infuriates me. And I'm glad to hear you say it. So you're saying like, hey, listen, you have to have a script and then you have to stick to that script, make it work first and then make it your own?
Correct, yeah. So I teach what's called like the A to Z process, which is essentially 5 steps to a successful close. And that's all built in our script. But my guys need to know the fundamentals of each part, exactly what it means, verbatim. Like I can't have them go off script because then what's gonna happen is they're gonna fumble and then they're trying to recover now on the pitch. So for me, it's like, if you can know it backwards and forwards, then you can make it you. Then you can add your flair. Then you can create your own kind of urgency. Because for me, it's like you can go through the script and you can go off basis, but the most important thing is bringing it right back to where you're at. So most people, they get jumbled. Well, they'll try to build some kind of rapport, and then it's like, oh, hey, Mr. Seller, and then they're asking if it's a 3-2, 1,200 square foot, but built no value on why the guy wants to sell their house.
Yeah.
So a lot of people become more like order takers and not closers.
That's a really good way of putting it. All right, what other tips?
Tie downs. Some of the hardest part about the industry is getting people on the phone. So you never really want to say, hey, I'll call you back or do anything like that. So tie downs are super important. Like I want to say like the words today in my sales pitch, like, hey, Mr. Seller, this is something we can get for you. If the price is right, can we get this done today?
Right.
You know, are there any hurdles. If your wife agrees, can we get this done today? Like, I want to see what kind of motivation these people have and implant words like today to get people to agree, like, and shake their head on the phone. Because essentially I want them to make a promise, so that way in my pitch it's like, hey, Scott, you told me that if I got you the 100K, that you'd be ready to move forward today.
Yeah, I love that too. So tie downs it's like a sales tactic, right? It's a great tip. And tie downs are planting in that seed today, getting that commitment. And a good way to get them to nod their head is to ask a reflexive question at the end of it. So you're gonna say, hey, listen, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try to get you qualified for an offer today. At the very end of it, after we've done the research, we feel like we've earned the right to ask for your business today. Does that sound right? And that tie down that you hit them with today, and then does that sound right? Of course, I've given you, and particularly, does that sound right? That sounds right, right? There's so many different ways to be able to deliver it. So yeah, I love that on tie downs. And also I love too, I know you guys have a mentality of there's no be back bus. Like you're not gonna pitch this person and then magically come back on their own. Like, unfortunately, sometimes it happens to people and they lose their whole sales career because they're like, oh, that's how this happens, right? I don't have to close today. No, you have to, it's why now, why today? That's what sales is. Every single sales, why now, why today? And so I love that you guys push them through the limit, the whole process. You keep them on the phone throughout the whole process. You're not letting them go and we'll call you back and let me go talk to underwriting and do these things. You guys are keeping them in the process from A to Z. So I love that. Any other tips you want to share?
So the way we kind of structure our pitches is kind of like if you go to a Toyota dealership, like my agents need to be the guy that shows up at the front door asking what you're looking for. And I make sure that my agents are always on the side of the client. And just like when you're buying your first car, they say, hey, do you want the red one? You want the leather seats? They tour around, you do the test drive. But once you get to the table and you're like, I want this car, that's a whole different game. You're going to start talking about prices, you're going to start negotiating, but we all know that it's not the agent you're trying to beat. It's the finance guy in the back. It's the underwriters. It's the guys who are going to give you what your credit score is going to give you this, and this is your payment. And then it starts negotiating. So just like that, in our sales pitch, we tell our clients that, hey, we got to go talk to our underwriters in the back. They're the ones going to present our offers. Because at the beginning of the pitch, we're setting up the presentation like, hey, one or two things is going to happen. We're either going to get you approved and get you a cash offer today, or it's going to be denied, and the least we can do is give you a reason why. So I want to set the proper expectations because I want my guys to be test driving my client around.
Yes.
So that way when they go to the underwriters, they're not the ones getting blamed. It's like, hey, we're going to put the boxing gloves on. We're going to beat the underwriters back so that way we can negotiate together.
So essentially what you're doing, it sounds like to me, is the call starts off like customer versus sales agent, or customer, not against, but it's a transactional relationship. But at the end, once you actually do submit it, and I think you do most of your underwriting, sounds like to me your sales agents now pivot to their side, where it's you two as a team who have a tremendous rapport and they planted all the seeds now versus the back office. I love that. I love that. Cool. Tips.
The one sales tip I like the most is just a takeaway.
Oh yeah.
Takeaway. That's like my thing. I use it most. We're doing timeshare. It's always like, hey, this is not for you. It's okay. So the takeaway's the best. It works well with girls as well. I always.
But what is it? What is the takeaway?
Takeaway is like, hey, I have, tell a girl you invite her to a concert of Kanye West. Hey, I got Kanye West tickets. Like, oh, I'm not sure. Oh, it's okay, no problem. I got my other buddy who's gonna go. Oh, wait. I wanna go. So it's the same thing like that. It's like, hey, we have this offer to you. Oh, I need my wife to decide. Hey, I completely understand, but we only have limited funds available to spend this quarter, and it's the last day of the quarter right now. It's June 30th, so I have other people who are ready to move forward. So if you're not ready to move forward today, I completely understand, but we just got to allocate this funds, so we're gonna have to put it over here. And it's like, oh wait, like the offer's gonna go away. So here's an offer. Oh, I'm gonna take it away. Oh wait, hold on, I do want that price. Hey, I will take that number. So that's I think my favorite sales technique is the takeaway. It's very powerful.
I was like, no big deal, bro. I'm talking to somebody else right down the street. We're already looking at 2 other properties there. Oh, somebody just rang the bell, and you all of a sudden you take that away from them. People, the desire for gain is always stronger than, the fear of loss. I said that completely wrong, but the fear of loss is always stronger than the desire for gain. And people want what they can't have. Same thing with that Kanye West tickets. He's like, oh, well, I want to go. I don't want it to go to somebody else. I love that. And I think it's built into your guys' pitch the way you have it set up as well, too.
100%. Real quick on that, I know with the timeshare, when we worked timeshare, that worked perfectly, because it's with sales, it's all a numbers game too. So when we have, like, obviously we have tons of leads, so it helps a little bit more to be like, hey, we're not trying to kill everybody to say, hey, you got to take this number. But when we did timeshare sales, like, it would always be like, I didn't have commission breath.
Yes.
I had another income stream also, so like I wasn't needing the commission as much as other people. So not having that commission breath, or like they know, they can feel you need that deal. With me, I was like, hey, if you don't want this travel club, it's no problem. Like, your one no that's gonna get me closer to the next yes. So like, that's fine, it's just a numbers game. And so when I literally would tell customers that, like, hey, it's no problem, you just help me get to my next yes. I get no's all day. And in this industry, in the sales, you're gonna get more no's than yeses, all the time.
So I always say this about sales in general, because I don't think there's any sales where this isn't true, but sales is the only profession that I'm aware of or intimately aware of where you will fail so much more than you'll ever be successful. If my accounting guy failed as many times as a closer fails to be successful, I did 20 reports and only one of them's correct. Like, bro, you failed 19 times to get one correct. But no, it's like your closer's like, dude, I just had 20 consultations. That 20th one was the one, boom, 1 out of 20. And the next guy's 1 out of 14. The next guy's 1 out of 8 or whatever it may be. But the whole point to that is that you have to go through all those no's to get to a yes. And I think that's one of my tips I would give to anybody. I call it like the rain jacket mentality. Just like you have those parkas, right? You have those parkas that you put on that let the rain go off of you. You're gonna get thrown up in this industry, thrown up on, right? People are just gonna vomit. The seller's gonna vomit about why they need so much, or the prospect at the car lot's gonna say, no, we were just walking around, we're just doing this. If you don't have that proverbial rain jacket, that resistance, that persistence to resistance, and you don't let it just hit you and fall off, you're gonna succumb to all that negativity, because we're in a highly negative profession. Like, people think we're the worst of the worst when we call. Just because, like, hey, listen, you're the only guy who's actually you're trying to buy something from me instead of selling me something. So they always get hit all day long by people trying to sell them something. All of a sudden now it's different, they're buying, but they're still, well, I don't know you, and et cetera, et cetera. So having that rain jacket mentality where no matter what they say, it's just gonna roll off of me and I'm gonna be able to go back into my script is a really big one. And then I think that kind of maybe is the second to the first one, which is just take action. There's so many people in this industry who have analysis paralysis. There's so many people in every industry, heck, everything, right? And so it's like 95% of people are okay with the mediocrity that life will provide them. There's that special 5%, and that other 95 still wants that other 5% life. But are they willing to put up with all the failures, all the rejection? How many times are you gonna get told no? How many times are you gonna have a late night? How many times are you gonna be working? How many times is your spouse gonna kind of, be against what you're doing, or your girlfriend or your family or whatever? So to just pick up the phone and get used to being told no is the most important thing. So for me at the call center, if somebody's like, hey, I've never hired, or I'm just starting out, I wanna hire you, I won't allow them to test fire on my leads. Infrastructure's too big, this is an advanced technique that we provide for people, but it's like, no, you gotta go in there into the trenches first, man. I need you to have some battle wounds. I need you to have some battle scars. I need you to come out and be ready for this next level, because I can't walk onto an NFL team. I can't walk out onto a college team. Might be able to mess around with some high school. But do you know what I mean? Like, that's my thing. But on sales, okay, cool, put me in the elite of the elite, but how can you go into the elite until you're there? So I love it. Any other general sales tips before we wind things down, guys?
No, I mean, going back on Alex, disqualifying is one of the most important things. Like, I think everybody in the wholesale industry is trying to always approve the client, and you gotta disqualify them. We gotta pretend like, hey, you're not the only one. Like you said, we need to make sure that our client at the end of that phone call feels like they won. Like, if the client calls you and says, I'll take 100K, and you're like, what the hell did she say? I can sell that at 125. If you immediately jump to the 100K and you don't disqualify them, you're gonna scare them away, because they're like, that's too easy. So no matter what in the pitch, like, I need to be disqualifying to get to that final approval, because I need them to feel like once I say congratulations, that they feel like they actually won.
That's great. You remind me too, one of the best feelings I feel in sales is when the customer says thank you after they sign the contract. Like, there's no better feeling, because it means that we did a good job, right? We created value, we're helping out the consumer, the company's able to help another consumer. And I think so much of America or whoever kind of have this mentality, oh, well, you're making money. Well, we have to make money, that's how we help more people. And with nothing sweeter than making money and being appreciated by the seller for us helping them and making money at the same time. So we're in a beautiful industry. I'm excited that you guys have introduced me to this segment of the industry. Excited to continue to partner with you guys in your commercial efforts and your single family efforts. Tell the folks out there, how will we follow you guys?
Yeah, you can reach me at qthecloser.com, or you can reach me on Instagram, qthecloser as well. Anything you need, A to Z process, comp training, I'm here for you.
Got to check out his course. He helped a lot of people scale their sales business. For me, it's at alex.theinvestor.quezada. That's my IG. And then if you're interested on getting on our buyers list, or interested in, that's how you actively invest, or if you're interested in passively investing in potential deals in the future or opportunities we have, go to vaultventures.net, like a bank vault, vaultventures.net.
Cool, I love it. So guys, one of the other things that we're super excited about, knowing that you guys are the best of the best in the industry, when we had this idea for Leads to Deals, I said, hey man, I think that you guys would be perfect to kind of head up like a coaching type service for sales in general, and particularly for you guys initially in the real estate world. So we do have the Leads to Deal coaching and mentoring course that's about to deploy here within the next 30 days or so. They've created the most amazing content. They've broken down their success of how they've done in 1 month, 78 deals just this month, commercial properties, how they're doing it all, how to take your team and grow it effectively, how to scale effectively, how to keep track of your KPIs, leverage the technology and infrastructure. Because if I wanted to build a mansion like these guys have built, I would like to see their blueprint. I don't want to try to create it by myself. So the blueprint's going to be available for you guys. It'll be the Leads to Deals mentoring and coaching course. I'm super excited to be able to contribute where I can for what we've learned here at Lamasu. So very excited, guys. I thank you again for your time, and I look forward to having you back on in a couple of months to discuss your continued growth.
Leads to Deals.